How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. So today we're going to dive into a pitcher. Yesterday we talked about him briefly. Want to do an individual episode on this guy. News kind of slow right now, but, lots of stuff coming out about Jung-Hoo Lee. Obviously, we also talked about yesterday in an episode that really broke down what his strengths were and really what he would offer this Yankee team. But Yerry De Los Santos, this is an interesting pitcher. Yankees just signed to a minor league deal. Will hopefully transition to the MLB. He's got some good stuff. And look, the truth is, he's another Pittsburgh Pirates guy. Like, this is another guy coming from the Clay Holmes train of Pittsburgh. And Yankees tend to like these guys. They like to find some of these low-key arms, these guys that maybe aren't performing that well in Pittsburgh, that they see some upside in. Honestly, I don't know why Pittsburgh gives us any more pitchers because everybody we get from them turns into an absolute stud. So Yerry De Los Santos is an interesting player. We're going to break him down, showcase what he can do, why he could be another really solid arm for this bullpen, especially because he's got a really high ground ball rate. And Clay Holmes is in his final year of arbitration. So the Yankees may be trying to turn him into that similar level pitcher. Of course, I'd be very optimistic. That would be an absolute hit if we were able to get another Holmes out of him. But I do like this acquisition, really cheap, lots of good upside, good velocity, good pitch movement. We'll talk about that. Obviously has a really interesting, kind of sinker, slider, changeup mix here. Not much of a sweeper. Has a lot of horizontal movement, or rather vertical movement on that slider. So we're going to talk about that. I know, Ryan, you probably have some insight into what he could do to kind of create some deception with that sinker. Before I dive into the good stuff, my friends, how you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing well. As you mentioned, there's some buzz going around. Actually, another guy that the Yankees, I think, were linked to, Shota Imanaga, is going to be posted either today or between this time and Monday. So, that's another pitcher that's going to hit the market that the Yankees have shown some interest in. Obviously, Yamamoto was recently posted. Lee should be posted in the coming weeks as well. So, the Yankees, again, they're going to be involved in the international market. To what extent, that's yet to be seen. But they signed Yerry De Los Santos to a deal that allows him to start out at the minor league level. They don't have to roster him on the major league team, which is important. That is a distinction because I think that keeps him safe from getting just cut during the season or before the season even starts. I don't know if you remember when they signed a couple of relievers last year on some flyer deals, like Junior Fernandez, I think his name was, and they cut him because they just threw him on the 40-man roster, all right, you're here, and they just they put a claim on him and then cut him. This is different. They signed him. So it's clear that they showed interest enough to keep him around. And, as you mentioned, the sinker, right, that's his big pitch. He's kept really soft contact on that pitch, which is important, right? The ability to not only throw it a lot in zone, which he threw it in zone 57.8% of the time, but also to get batters to, when they do swing at it and make contact, which it's a sinker. Sinkers tend to have higher contact rates. They just can't do damage against it. That's really important, right? Quality of contact management, it does matter, especially in a league where guys are hitting the ball harder and harder every single day. These are the best, athletes that only get better, right? That's a trend that has gone on for the entirety of sports. So, looking at De Los Santos here, the thing that he lacks is a strong secondary pitch. His slider is not a whiff pitch, and that's not a great formula for success, right? You need to be able to go out and get swings and misses. I actually think part of his command issues have to do not with the fact that he can't throw strikes, right? He's in the zone 48.4% of the time. That's not dramatically worse than the league. That's not going to cause massive walk rates. It's that he can't throw that slider in zone. He only threw it in zone 28.9% of the time, and batters only chase 20.3% of the time. So if you're not throwing it in zone, if guys are not swinging at it, and when they do swing at it, they're not getting, they're not swinging and missing, you have a bad breaking ball. So, I wonder if, as you mentioned, do they go with a sweeper? Does he profile for one? Do they maybe just make some tweaks for his slider? Maybe they make it a little firmer, or, they prioritize more of a dropping action. The Yankees have done a pretty good job at emphasizing kind of unique pitches, right? You think Ian Hamilton, his slider is not a sweeper. His slider is, it's actually a very unique pitch. It's the Slambio, right? You look at Clay Holmes. He has a sweeper and he developed one, but the Yankees also brought back that gyro slider because that gyro slider, which is more of that tight spinning, think of like a football, how it spins around instead of just forwards or backwards. That type of spin generates that tight bullet spin. It drops really hard. There's not a lot of left to right movement, right? Again, think of a football. How many times do you see a great spiral thrown and it's, tailing left a bunch, right? That's not how you're supposed to throw football. That's not how you're supposed to throw a gyro slider either. So I wonder if the Yankees try to, maybe get some, maybe try to tweak his a little bit more, try to emphasize more drop or whatever it may be. He does seem like a sweeper candidate, right? On the surface, you think a guy with kind of a crossfire action, he would on paper work well for a slider, but a sweeper. But again, that remains to be seen. His changeup is also an interesting pitch. I think it looks a little too much like the sinker. It does have more drop, but end of the day, like it hasn't really performed very well. So I do wonder if that's either a pitch that they don't really care about, or they're like, hey, as long as you can get some lefties out, it doesn't matter. Or if they're like, hey, we really want to fine tune this pitch. But Alex, obviously Matt Blake knows is better than myself, but they're going to need to develop a secondary here. He is only 25 years old. And in terms of results, he actually did get good results. He had like what, a 3.30 ERA. Do I think that's sustainable? No, I think he has to, get more swings and misses in order for that to work for him. But again, like as you mentioned, this is a profile the Yankees do really well with. And, if there's anything this fan base can agree with, it's that if you give Matt Blake a guy who throws 95, has a sinker, and is a reliever, they'll probably be at least playable on this team.
Yeah, I mean, look, these cheap bullpen arms end up going really far because, like, you don't necessarily want to invest big in a bullpen if you don't have to. The Yankees did last year with Tommy Kahnle, gave him 12 million over 11.5 mil over 2 years. So, traditionally speaking, well, Clay Holmes is about to get a nice little pay increase in his final year of arbitration, that he's going to be a free agent. Like, you want to keep taking shots on guys like, as you said, they signed him. They didn't just bring him in as like a guy they could just release. They signed him, and the truth is, like, this is a dude with some decent stuff. Had a 3.33 ERA last season over 24 innings, something in that range. So yeah, 24.1 innings. So not bad. Certainly a lot to be desired. I think that he only had 666 strikeouts per 9, had a 71% left on base rate. The 55% ground ball rate is what really entices me in terms of that sinker producing ground balls. As you said, the secondary pitch isn't necessarily there. That's what makes Clay Holmes so effective. The fact that he has that sinker slider combination that when he's on is impossible to hit. That sinker moves like crazy. So, Yerry De Los Santos, I don't think has that level of quality that Clay Holmes has in terms of just when he's on, he's elite. But I do think that there is certainly some upside there where if the Yankees tweak his fundamentals, tweak his, just the way he's holding the ball a little bit, or, some of the things that they've introduced to some of their pitches to get the most value out of them, we may see a significantly better version. I mean, for goodness sake, look at Ian Hamilton. He was a journeyman. He spent multiple years on different teams in minor league systems, couldn't catch on, had some injury issues. And then he joins the Yankees and was one of the best bullpen arms in baseball last year. Like, yeah, he dealt with, I think, a groin injury at one point. They brought him in on a short kind of game because I think maybe Johnny Brito got knocked out early or Rodon got knocked out early, got injured after that. Not really his fault. He just wasn't warmed up, wasn't ready to play. But I do feel as though right now the Yankees have the luxury of testing these type of things, really going after these kind of home run caliber players like Yerry De Los Santos, some upside, and seeing if they can get any value there. And I know everyone's focused on the big acquisitions, Juan Soto, Cody Bellinger, Yamamoto, and we're going to cover those and make sure you guys get all the rumors there as well. We've talked about them extensively, so I think you guys pretty much know everything about them. If you've listened to our episodes, you certainly do. So, things are, I think, going to be a little bit slow. How do you think this offseason kind of plays out, though? Because right now I'm kind of in the boat that I think that, if you're Yamamoto and you're Joel Wolf, his agent, you're probably not jumping at the first bid. You're probably waiting and trying to drive that price up. I think the free agency class is very top heavy. I know you've said that before. And with that being said, you probably don't want to jump in and take what you can get now. There's going to be a lot of interest in those top players because there's so few of them that you're better off waiting, seeing how the price develops. Your value is not going to take a hit. You know what I mean? Like Cody Bellinger is not going to get cheaper. He's only going to get more expensive. So I am curious as to see, like, what do you think about that in terms of how you think this offseason plays out when we will start to see some more aggressive news? Right now, a lot of rumors, a lot of Yankees interested in that guy, as we've heard in the past many a time. But when do you think start to heat up, maybe closer to Christmas or after the holidays?
I mean, I don't know. I could say that, the Yamamoto signing is going to have to happen before January 5th, right? So that is going to be decided within 2 months, right? Imanaga, if he's posted soon, should also have his free agency decided within 2 months, right? Jung-Hoo Lee, if he's posted, his posting period is actually shorter. It's only 30 days. So let's say he got posted in a week, right? We will know a month from then where he's going to go. I imagine he is going to get signed somewhere. I don't think he's going to end up just getting passed up on by every single team, barring like some incredible injury that happens between now and that signing date. But I think that the Yankees, as you mentioned, kind of like position yourself by, you don't have to spend a lot in your bullpen because you don't have to spend in your bullpen. You can figure these guys out. Figure it out with whether you're going to be going after Yamamoto. Maybe you're going to go for like a lesser star in the market because you don't think you can get Yamamoto and a guy like Soto. I don't know if you saw that report from earlier today, but John Morosi suggested that Soto could be moved before the winter meetings even end. So we could know about that, the conclusion of that saga in 3 weeks, right? Like, think about that. In 3 weeks, we can know whether Juan Soto is going to be a Yankee or whether we've got to sit here and start putting fists through computers, Alex. So, ultimately, I'm not trying to sit here and say, oh, the Yerry De Los Santos signing makes the Yankees more likely to get Juan Soto. That feels like a stretch and a half. But what I am saying is that the Yankees' ability to develop relievers allows them to not have to pay for, hey, we have to go out and get Josh Hader. Hey, we have to go out and spend $10 million a year on this guy, right? We were talking about like the differences between, how, there are differences obviously between like Clay Holmes and Yerry De Los Santos. We're not trying to say that they're the exact same pitcher. They're going to have the exact same outcome. There is a world where like the sticks that we wanted Clay Holmes to make, or that the Yankees wanted Clay Holmes to make, or the progression they want him to make, didn't stick, right? I don't know if De Los Santos is going to be able to make the adjustments, right? We don't. The only people who can know that are De Los Santos, Matt Blake, and then end of the day, I mean, you can throw great pitches, but if you don't have command, or if it doesn't work, or if you get hurt, it doesn't work, right? Like, baseball is a variance game, so you've got to take your shots when you can, as you mentioned. It is interesting because I do view the Yankees as a great organization for throwing sweepers. They have the most sweepers thrown over the last 2 seasons, and it's a simple, like, it's kind of a seam thing, right? Like, they identified with Clay Holmes. So for those who are unaware, seam shifted wake is basically this concept of you're looking at how the seams of the baseball orient with the wind. That's why I went to grab the baseball earlier. I wasn't like trying to get distracted. Looking at how a slider is thrown, typically you see the gyro sliders, the one that are thrown like a football. You get around the horseshoe, whatever it may be, or at least that's how I threw mine. I know that a lot of pitchers typically use that grip, but for sweepers, it tends to mirror your sinker grip. So that's why a lot of guys with sinkers throw that, because they just have to get around the baseball. And so I wonder if the Yankees use that cue. So again, for those unaware, if you're throwing a sweeper, it's probably with these 2 seams, probably looking at it like like your sinker, and that's why it's a natural pitch that guys with sinkers can pick up easily. I'm not necessarily sure if you would call Yerry De Los Santos the type of pitcher who relies on just the orientation of seams to generate movement, but a sinker inherently does, and he throws a sinker and a changeup, so that would indicate that this is a candidate for that. So Alex, I do think there's that world where he develops a sweeper, and if he has that hard, not hard, sweepers are softer than sliders, but if he has that sharp, a pitch that can move down and away from hitters, that's going to get a lot of swings and misses. And if you're getting swings and misses, and you're getting chases, and you're creating these, these tunnels of horizontal movement, and you're making it harder for hitters to track what you're throwing, you're going to get a lot of good results. And he already keeps the ball on the ground a lot. He already generates soft contact. Like this past season, he had, a really low expected weighted on base average on contact at just 304. For context, that would rank in the upper percentiles in the league had he qualified, for those thresholds. So, if he's able to maintain, hey, I can still generate, soft contact, and you add whiffs, let's say he strikes out 24% of batters next year and walks 9% of batters, and he still has the ground ball stuff, he's probably going to end up finishing with an ERA under 4. And if he finishes with an ERA under 4, it's a win, right? Like you just need to get value here, right? And Clay Holmes is a free agent after next season. Jonathan Loaizaga is a free agent after next season. Tommy Canley is a free agent after next season. So those are 3 of your most reliable relievers when they're healthy. I know Loaizaga has health issues and so does Canley, but when they're healthy, the Yankees go to them a lot in high leverage. So Yerry De Los Santos would be a multi-year option, right? Like Ian Hamilton's going to be here for the next 5 years, barring a trade or something happening, but he's under contract for 5 years, right? These type of acquisitions help you in that regard. And of course, you're going to have a lot of roster turnover. So again, I think that this is just a matter of we don't need to spend the bullpen and we need to spend on big pieces. Let's keep it that way. And I don't see a reason for them to change that mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. Me neither. But I'm excited to hear your thoughts down below on Yerry De Los Santos. Definitely a player that you probably do not know, but one that you may end up knowing pretty well if he does pan out. And I have faith that Matt Blake will figure out a way to get value out of a player like this. So always happy to have a good conversation. Make sure to like and subscribe. If we don't hear from you or see you guys before the holidays, have a great weekend. Make sure to drive safely tonight. I know the day before Thanksgiving, usually the most DUIs and the most drunk drivers of the year. So stay safe out there, please. We appreciate the support. Sending all our love to you and your families. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.